I wish I could say that it's a very warm welcome, but I have warmed up surprisingly. If you kind of call for me, you first arrived, so it is a very warm welcome to all of you. This is a panel event, and my colleague Rebecca will introduce all the panelists in due course. They will give an overview of their organisation and what they do. More importantly, they'll try and make the connections between the kind of experience that you could gain as a student with their organisations, and more importantly, the skills which you could develop and the knowledge as part of that experience. As head of the career service, I'm very grateful to all the panelists for giving up their time and my colleagues for organising this event. Make the most of it. Don't be afraid to ask these questions. I've run lots of these sessions where nobody's got any questions. So let's make it a very informal, friendly event where you can ask lots of questions.
Can I ask them to start?
Yes.
Obviously, some of the students here are thinking about prospective placement opportunities. For our students, which are these two rows here, they're more thinking about graduate opportunities because they're already on a placement. So it would be great to hear about it from that perspective.
Yes, okay. And I think in terms of graduate opportunities, that's another interesting question. I could ask you a few questions about that as well.
Okay.
Because I think the graduate labour market has changed so much in the last 5 or 10 years. And what employers are saying to us from the private sector, the public sector, the voluntary sector really, they are looking for people with experience. So I think most of you will leave the university hopefully with a very good honours degree, you'll have done really well in the exams, but also part of the profile of what you have to offer any employer at graduate level or other is experience. So some of you might have already picked up some experience anyway, others are looking to develop and enhance your CVs. So that's what the day is about, and if you've got any questions to the panelists about that, then go ahead. I think this today is the third event that we've organised across all campuses in Treforest, and we had one in Cardiff as well. We've had a volunteer fair, and I think collectively we've had about 50 to 63 groups, 53 different organisations that have come on to various campuses in the last week to talk about the whole range of opportunities. And I think really what you will find is that from the panellists, the range of opportunities within the third sector is quite significant. It really, really is. And I think it's something that the university perhaps we need to continue to build those relationships with the third sector, because there's a huge, huge range of experiences that we can tap into. I think I better shut up and let Rebecca get on with it now, and I hope you have a very good session. Thank you.
Okay, good morning guys. Just where I was left off, I will say much. I'll just introduce the panel and then they can tell you more about themselves and their groups. So, first up this morning is Paula Harris from Duffryn Community Link.
Good morning everybody, thanks very much for asking me to come and talk about graduate opportunities and opportunities for students within the third sector. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself first, a bit about my journey, just to put it into perspective for you. I've been volunteering on and off since the age of 18, as soon as I finished sixth form college. I've done work all over the place within schools, in statutory organisations and third sector organisations. I've been working in the third sector for over 22 years, and that actually started the year that I graduated with my first degree from what is now the University of South Wales in Forest. My first degree was in behavioural science, but I started working with NCH Action of Children. Started working there in childcare, looking after the after-school clubs, holiday play schemes, probably a lot of the stuff that students do in their breaks now, you know, doing the play schemes, that kind of thing. Then I moved on to play development, became a play development worker, then a project coordinator for a wide charity called Move the Digital Play Forum, then an executive officer for a charity called Tri-County Play Association, which covered 3 counties. What working in the third sector has actually helped me do is improve my skills and my knowledge. Without those opportunities within the third sectors, I wouldn't now have a PGCE, I wouldn't be training and teaching, and I wouldn't have a master's degree because my employers actually paid for me to actually undertake those courses of study while I was working. And over the last 20 years, I've trained, employed and supported graduates within the voluntary sector. The organisations that I've worked in have employed graduates. One of the ladies that I've worked with, who's now a training officer, came to us to start with on holiday play schemes, then became an inclusive play coordinator for children with disabilities, then found that she was very good at actually training up the support workers, so we put her through a PGCE. Yeah, so there's a lot of support out there, and a lot of really good opportunities to gain experience from the feet down all the way up to the top. Right, I'm going to go into bust a couple of myths about the voluntary sector, because a lot of people, when you say charity, assume certain things about us. We're all tree-hugging do-gooders who wear sandals and shackles. I occasionally hug trees, very, very occasionally. I don't own sandals, I tend to wear creepers or Dr. Martens, and chanting, no, not my cup of tea, really. Working in the voluntary sector means that you don't get paid. If you work voluntarily, you don't get paid, but working in the voluntary sector, you can get some very well-paid jobs. Charities survive on government handouts, so they don't offer job security. Again, that is a load of nonsense. Most charities only derive just over a third of their income from government funding. So the third sector is actually highly organised and professional. We've got to be, because we're spending other people's money. Money that's been donated, money that's been gifted, money that we've had to apply for through bids, writing tenders. It's a lot of hard work getting funding in. We've got to be professional to be able to get that money in. We all need to eat, and like any organisation, the higher you climb in an organisation, the more you get paid. Working for a third sector organisation is just like working for any other organisation in that respect. And in terms of handouts, no, we don't go for handouts. In fact, we give the state quite a lot. The state actually relies on services from the third sector to provide services that they can't provide themselves. So quite often you'll find local government adverts looking for third sector organisations to come in and deliver a service. So what kind of graduate job opportunities might you expect in the third sector? I started off with development work because that's really where I started. Community development, sports development, play development, organisational development, anything with development on the end. They love their graduates because you come in with enthusiasm, which is quite nice, and normally you still have a bit of a passion for life and you haven't become cynical. So development work is one area that's really part of taking graduates. Counselling, another one, everything from sort of like counselling people to things like debt counselling, and the whole spectrum really. Organisations such as Mind, they'll train you up to become counsellors. Teaching and training, like I said, within the organisations that I work for, I managed to gain my PGCE, and I still do quite a lot of teaching and training. I work now for an organisation called Duffryn Community Link, which is a third sector organisation actually working in the Duffryn area of Newport, but also covering a bit of Maze Glass and the gear as well, for those of you who know Newport. And even though I manage the centre and I'm one of the directors of the organisation, I still like to get my feet in there. So I'm going to be starting an Introduction to Play work course for community members who don't have any qualifications just yet, or that are interested in play work as a career possibly. So we work with families right from the ground up. We work with other organisations such as Communities First, such as Citizens Advice Bureau. So we provide really a space where a lot of organisations can meet people that really need those services. Teaching, training and mentoring can be a really big part of that. Fundraising is not all about call centres. You know, It can be writing a bid for £900,000 to the big lottery. It can be about marketing the organisation so you get more donations in. It could even be just doing an event and shaking up buckets, but everything from there all the way up to really high-level strategic funding opportunities. Building management is one of the things that I've never done before. I've never been in charge of a building, and suddenly this July with the new house, I found out I had to find out the plumbers were in the Newport area. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you know, the voluntary sector, third sector offers some really good opportunities. I work quite closely with the National Trust in the Duffryn area because they actually have a house down there and they've always got really good volunteering opportunities there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, there's certainly opportunity there too. Research. If you're working in the third sector, we do a lot of consultation with our beneficiaries, with people that are going to benefit from our service. We can't just get money like that. We need to make sure that the money that we're getting in is used in the way that our beneficiaries see real benefits from. To get that information, we've got to do a lot of research, and research within the third sector is a very important part of it. You can get jobs within the third sector looking into research. Policy development. I'm going to go through the others now quite quickly. Policy development, environmental planning and conservation. This is where your tree huggers come in, and your sandals and your tractor. I'm joking, I know lots of people that are into environmental planning that don't wear sandals, I promise. Marketing and publicity is huge within the third sector because we need to get our names out there. So we do quite a lot of that. We need people to look after the finances, public money that we're spending within the third sector, so we need to make sure that every penny that we spend is accounted for. HR, it's not all about volunteers, it's about people with salaries. We have the same HR structures in place as any organisation. IT, particularly linked with marketing and publicity, things like social media, website development, there's opportunities there too. Project and programme management, what can start off as quite a small organisation can grow into something quite massive that will have lots of different projects linking together into programmes, people to manage those. Volunteering coordination, if you've got an organisation that recruits volunteers, you need someone to make sure that the right people are doing the right job with the right people at the right time. Event planning, I've planned national playdays events with 3,000–4,000 children. I've planned residential training events in Marble Park with play workers. It depends on the organisation that you're working with, possibly all of those and more. And I said that because when I started off working in a charity, my job was development work, but I've done just about everything on that list as part of my job. There's very rarely 2 days the same, so you need to be flexible and you need to be adaptable. So why would the third sector want you? Research by the Association of Graduate Recruitment found that graduates contribute £1 billion of added value a year. So, you're worth the money, a lot of you, even before you graduate. Students that have developed a habit of learning, open to new ideas and experiences, more likely to fit in with workplace culture and to become one with workplace, really. You've developed those core transferable skills that are essential in the workplace, things such as written and verbal communication. You're used to standing up here and doing presentations, or a lot of you are. Problem solving, organisation, data analysis, all of those things you're probably doing already for your assignments or during your work placements. You're having to organise your time, you're having to juggle your social life with your professional life, with your work placements, with your study. You bring new perspectives and ideas from current learning. Like I said, my first degree was in behavioural science. 20 odd years ago I graduated. Now I can tell you a little bit about psychology now, but it's moved on so much, I would have to rely on, students who have just graduated to bring me up to scratch on it, and that's where you lot can be really useful. Adaptable, enthusiastic and willing to be challenged. You're bound to be willing to be challenged. You're at university. If you weren't willing to be challenged, you wouldn't be here. But it's also good for organisations in terms of succession planning. So if I decided to leave, and I've got someone that I've trained up behind me, my organisation's not going to have to worry too much about re-recruiting and retraining and getting somebody else brand new in and starting from scratch again. There are pros and cons of working in the third sector. Positives being volunteering looks good on your CV, and that's why I started volunteering. There was nothing altruistic about it at all. It was, okay, I've got the qualifications, I need something to write down as experience. So it looks good on your CV. Wide range of new experiences. Depending on the charity, you could be working anywhere in the world. It doesn't necessarily stop at the courts. There's a lot of national charities, there's a lot of international charities. A friend of mine from university actually did a lot of conservation work in Africa for about 2 years, and incredible experiences. It's flexible and adaptive. You will learn a lot of new skills. You will need to be flexible, but the job's flexible as well. It isn't rigid. You're not going to be clocking in and clocking out and just doing the same thing day in, day out. The good thing about the voluntary sector is because money comes from different pots and from all over the place, it means that sometimes we have to tweak what we're doing. But that's quite interesting because you can learn lots of new skills that way. The rewards are good. You get a lot of support. The third sector are nice to their people. Our people are the most important things to us, really, because without volunteers and without people working within the third sector, we would get absolutely nowhere. And therefore, we will give support and we will give, new experiences. And yes, you might get some travel expenses and allowances and things like that. Not a huge amount, obviously, it's public money. But we will train you up. We will make sure that you've got in place what you need to do the job. And there's excellent progression routes and opportunities, either to diversify into lots of different channels or to specialise in one particular area. Now, I don't believe there's any negatives about working in the third sector, so I've written not quite so positives up there. It's target-driven, it's difficult to meet. You're getting money from lots of different places, and they'll have an idea on how that money should be spent. So sometimes your idea of what you want to be doing might not be the same as the firm's idea. So sometimes that can be a little bit difficult and cause a bit of tension. That's nothing drastic. High stress, your role might change from week to week, and it's likely to. When I started as a development officer, I thought I'd be developing play opportunities. I didn't expect to be painting a library in Abercanney to turn into a play resource centre. So I can now put painting and decorating down on my CV. It's time-consuming. Everything needs to be consulted on. It's so that the beneficiaries get the best service possible from us. But it does mean we can't just have an idea and think, yeah, let's run with that. We need to check that everything's all right first, and it will meet the needs of the people we're working with. Public cuts and changes to government programmes and priorities does mean that sometimes you'll have a source of funding, then it's gone, and then a new one will come in from somewhere else. So you need to be flexible, because things change constantly. But I think that's actually quite nice. Changes or ends of source of funding, we're always on the lookout for new sources, which means that we're always on our toes. We don't get bored, we don't fall asleep. We're out there doing it all the time. So what's in it for you? Opportunity to work with people who are passionate about what they do, because I've never met anybody working in a third sector organisation that isn't passionate. It's certainly not for the money, unless you're in one of the really big charities, and then they pay well. You get a good level of support when you start a new career. Plenty of supervision, sessions, plenty of training. You get training, continued development opportunities, and including professional qualifications. You have an opportunity to gain that experience in more than one area or function, building transferable skills for jobs. The financial support that you'll get as a graduate is a better salary than most junior positions if you're just going straight in without a degree. And there's an excellent potential for building networks with a variety of other organisations. Within the third sector, we have some umbrella organisations. In Newport, it tends to be Garvo. They hold a lot of networking events and things like that. So you get to know people. You get to hear about opportunities that are out there in other organisations as well.
What was that called? Garvo?
Garvo, Gwent Association of Voluntary Organisations. That's based in Church Road.
They're here today, the voluntary fair.
Where's the voluntary fair?
It's in Borden.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Could you say what your actual what you're doing now again?
Yeah. I work for an organisation called Duffryn Community Link. So it's a third sector organisation. with the aim of improving the life of people living in the Duffryn area. But we have spread out a little bit into Gay and Maesglas area as well. The centre that I manage is an integrated children's centre, which is on the same site as Duffryn Infants and Junior School. Within that centre, sorry, we run a childcare provision, so everything from breakfast club, after school club, play group, lunch club. We have school nursery in there, holiday place schemes, a creche. We work closely with Flying Start, who are on the same site as us. So they're looking particularly at children in specific postcode areas and pockets of deprivation to give them more of a boost than when they're starting in their nursery career, so real littlies. We work quite closely with them, and they use our building as well. Citizens Advice Bureau, they hold surgeries there once a week. We have a cafe within the building, which has become a real focal point for people in the community, particularly those that aren't in employment or training. So they come in, they have a cafe, and then they find out about all the services that are actually run within the area. We have food hampers every week, so the food bank comes to our centre and we hand out food there. That happens weekly there. We have single parents employment advisor from the job centre who uses the building and is there 2 weeks at times a week. So there's lots of other organisations apart from us, and that is just in that one building. The other side of the estate, we have an office where the community's first team went from, because we are paid to employ the community's first team in that particular cluster, the West Cluster of Newport. And from there, they run the Livelihoods Project, which is a project with Oxfam, is helping some of the most hard-to-reach families, giving them training, opportunities for building up work experience, opportunities for volunteering themselves. We have an allotments project within Tredegar House. So, you know, there's lots and lots of different things actually happening. So we act almost like an umbrella for that estate.
Do you have, because you were talking about people who manage particular projects, and I'm sure underneath your umbrella of lots of different organisations, you've got people who then are sort of managing those particular projects. Are those paid roles or are they voluntary roles?
No, they're paid roles.
Okay. Yeah. And then in terms of people who are delivering the skills, delivering workshops, I suppose, and delivering provision, would they be working on a voluntary basis?
No, most of those are paid roles as well. We do tend to have volunteers with childcare provision. We've just set up, or just about to start a project working with police service, looking at young people who are likely to become excluded from school. So they're going to be doing some catering training with us, and their health and safety and first aid training with us, and actually going to be volunteering and get some work experience in our cafe. So there are other opportunities as well, but a lot of the roles within the centre are actually paid roles.
Sorry, it's kind of along the same thread. Do you often get people sending proposals to you of projects that could be suitable for different?
It tends to be, what we try to do is run a partnership within the area. So all of the other organisations will come together. Because they've been working with the residents for quite a while, the residents will actually, they consult with the residents will actually feed into partner organisations about projects that they feel will be successful, and then we will look for funding for those projects. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Paula. Give us a great overview. Okay, and next up we've got Kelly and Rachel, who are going to give you a bit of an insight of how volunteering can lead to working in their organisation, which is youth offending.
Hi, I'm right. We're actually within this, we're not doing a presentation or anything. Okay? First I want to ask though, what are you all studying? Can you all kind of shout what you're studying?
Community health and wellbeing. We're all doing creative learning skills.
Oh, right, yeah.
Community health and wellbeing, all of us.
All of you want to say anything? Yeah. Do you all know what you want to do when you do me?
No.
No?
No.
No one got any idea what they're going to do when you do me? No. I studied a degree. I started 18 years ago, I remember then. So I obviously graduated 15 years ago, and I knew specifically what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the police force, and that was it. That's all I wanted to do. So when I left uni, the time I left uni, I was like, I don't want to join the police. What am I going to do now? So I had this degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and when I was applying for jobs, I found it very difficult to go into the line of work. I wanted to work with young people. I kind of knew that. I had nothing to go on my application for, really. So what I would advise you to do really is to look for a job you want, start looking for jobs, look at the job description and see if you can match your skills already. If you can't match your skill, I'd go and look for that, how to get that opportunity to get that skill, because by the time you finish your degree and you're looking for jobs, it's really hard, especially in this day and age where money's a bit tight. You need to have those skills, and how I did that really was I volunteered for various organisations, Home Star, I don't know if anyone knows that organisation, working with like little 5-year-olds, but little tiny ones. I couldn't deal with that, and realised that, so I moved on to the older, so I worked in a residential home. I couldn't cope with either, because every time I went in, somebody died, I was like, I can't cope with this. And then I started working in a youth club, realised I wanted to work with adolescents. And from the experience I built by trying all different behaviours, that kind of built up my CV. And when I applied for the job, I could hit all the spec that they were asking for. And that's why I got a job in the Youth Offending Service as a volunteer coordinator. But it did take me kind of, how many years? 15 years to find the job I actually wanted. But working, we are from the statutory services, so we come under children's services in the council. So we do recruit volunteers, and everything that Paula has mentioned and raised, we raise the same things about being flexible, being passionate about what you want to do. We do recruit volunteers. We do recruit a lot of volunteers from this university doing a youth and community degree. We get a lot of people coming in. And the kind of things that we offer, when people come in and volunteer for us, the amount of training that we offer is really good on your CV. It's free, it's all paid for, everything.
What kind of training is it that you offer?
Like safeguarding, first aid, foundation and youth justice, domestic abuse, anything linked with young offenders or offending behaviour, and like the families as well. We deliver all the training around that to make sure that our volunteers are ready to go out and work with our young people. So it's quite an intense training course, but obviously that's kind of building up your CV with all the training. But it's the experience, the feedback we get on our volunteers is the experience that they get when they actually get out there and start working with our families, our young people. We are a multi-agency service, so under our roof we've got the police, CAMS, which is young mental health, what else we've got, youth workers, youth service, probation, substance misuse. So under the one roof, in one office, we've got all these agencies, so that our volunteers are constantly making links with all these different agencies. We've got really good links with Garvel as well, and we've got loads of links with other organisations, because when we work with our families and young people, we've got to go out there and look for what kind of services can we offer these young people, because unfortunately we only work with young people when they've offended. We deal with their order, which could be like 3 months. We work with this young person for 3 months. We don't feel it's fair. Well, we'll come in and support you for 3 months and then we'll just leave. We've got to make sure there's services out there for when we leave, that they're still there to support them. So a lot of the organisations we use, a lot of them out in the boardroom of the organisation, like Drug Aid, what else we do? Youth services, there's charities, there's like loads of third sector organisations that we have links with. So what comes with that really is when you're networking and you're taking young people to certain events and places, you're kind of building up a reputation really. These professionals will know what you're like to work with, so when jobs do come up, they'll remember you. So a lot of our volunteers have gone on to paid jobs. Some of them still actually volunteer for us, even though they've got paid jobs, because apparently with that we'll have some. But we do tend to retain our volunteers as well, which is really nice. What else was I going to say? Opportunities. There's a great example here. I actually trained Rachel as a volunteer in 2013, and now she's working alongside me as a volunteer coordinator with a youth offending service. So and it's another volunteer starting in a few weeks. She's our restorative approaches officer, so she's going to be working doing that. A lot of our volunteers have gone on to service managers' jobs within social services, within the council.
Sorry, you mentioned restorative approaches. What would that entail?
We've written a protocol to work with young people who are in sort of foster care or children's homes. We've been looking at how a lot of young people who are in foster care, looked after children, end up in the criminal justice system. So try and prevent that and to reduce it. We go in and do what's called restorative approaches. So if there's been some kind of conflict within the home, we try and encourage foster carers or care workers to avoid ringing the police every time there's a bit of an incident. And we'll go in and do some restorative justice work. So it's sort of things like we do conferences. So there's a bit of conflict within the home with the young person and the foster carer. We kind of get them together in a conference situation, really informal, and try and repair any harm that's been caused, which hopefully then leads on to them having a safe and secure placement. Because what we found was a lot of young people come in through youth offending service for offences of criminal damage because they just kicked off, they don't want to be there at the end of the day, or things escalated with their care workers and maybe some kind of assault happened or something like that, and they've had to call the police. So we're trying to reduce that really. So we do a lot of work with care homes, foster carers, that kind of thing. Our volunteers, the stuff they've gone on to. As I was saying, a lot of our service managers within the council started off as volunteers with us. The one I can think of, he started off as a volunteer, then he became the volunteer coordinator, then he became one of the managers in youth offending service, and now he's a service manager of his own project within the council. So he's kind of gone up, starting off as a volunteer. He was working in retail and decided he wanted to do this, and he's kind of escalated up to there. So the opportunities are there within the statutory service as well. So the jobs our volunteers have gone on to, a lot of our volunteers go and work at Blaenau, everyone knew of those, working in children's homes and residential, things went in Newport, I think, that they work in.
What's it called?
Blaenau.
Blaenau as in
Blaenau. As in what?
Sorry, I was thinking about the Welsh.
Oh, I don't know. Yes, Blaenau.
How's it spelled?
L-L-A-M-A-U.
L-A-M-A-U.
Yeah. So a lot of volunteers have gone on for jobs there because it fitted in with their day jobs or college and uni, because you can work evenings and weekends and stuff. So they started off there, but obviously they obtained that job by getting references off us as well. So we write a lot of references for our volunteers. Victim support, we've had a few volunteers go on to victim support. Then we do Connect, it's the Gwent victim support services, I think it's based in Blackwood Police Station. So a lot of our volunteers go on to that. I'd say about 5 of our volunteers who work in residential children's homes around the area. A lot have gone on to work in the youth service, this is all paid work. We've had one volunteer who's now volunteering abroad, but she had to go and have an interview. She's volunteered in Morocco and Malawi, so she went with an organisation and she had to have an interview and go through that because of her experience of volunteering already and the reference. They took her on as a volunteer, she had a lovely time, we've seen photos. And a lot of jobs within social services, really. Anything else? Yeah?
Just to turn what you're saying on its head there, would it be fair to say that if you don't volunteer, this sector is closed to you?
No. If you don't volunteer,
yeah.
I think anything is closed to you. You haven't got the experience to back up your learning. That's kind of what I got from it. A lot of the interviews, I said a lot of the interviews, I haven't been to an interview, but we hold interviews with volunteers as part of our recruitment for volunteers, and we can see at that stage that a lot of people coming to us lack experience and they're struggling to get jobs within the sector that they want to work in. And if you just print off any job description and you try and match your skills to it, a lot of them are asking for so many hours, voluntary hours, so many examples to match your experience to everything. So I would really encourage.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
Sorry. I also work in youth offending, so I'm going to talk a lot about what you just said. I think for me, it's not about whether you volunteer. You have got in an organisation that's interviews some staff, they'll give you an hour. We actually all interview for us for a day. So you have got in the space of that hour or that day to get out everything you know. So if there's a question, when there's a lot about evidence-based questioning now in interviews, if there's a question, can you give me a time when you've had to deal with conflict and how you resolve that? If you have not got that experience to resolve that in that interview on that hour, you're just not going to get the job. So the volunteering for me is actually about increasing your knowledge. So when you've got that critical point, and it's a critical point in a job interview, as employers, you don't know that person from Adam if they're just walked in off the street, or Eve even if they're just walked in off the street. But with any experience, you're going to be able to back up what you're saying. Oh yeah, there was a time when I was volunteering in a dog's home when actually two owners were fighting over a dog. That is what employers want to hear. And if you can't evidence you've got experience in life, you can do that, then you're wasting your time to go for job interviews. That's my experience of employing people.
And that's what we kind of do as volunteer coordinators. The reason why I took the jobs, I like working with young people, but I also like developing and helping people go on to what they want to do. And I think just to sort of pull on that really is we create those opportunities, so we put you in challenging circumstances where when you go to an interview for a paid job, you're going to have lots of things you can sort of draw from your experiences, and we offer conflict management training as well for everybody who wants the job. Yeah, so, but all our volunteers, we could say, give me an example when you did this, give me an example when this happened, and they can reel off loads of examples because of the opportunities that have been created for them and given.
Yes, like you see, as an example then, for me to get into the youth offending service, I was limited with experience to start with, so I started volunteering. I graduated in 2011. I'd worked in youth clubs, sessional work, I'd done various things all over the place, and every time I went for the youth service for a job, I was getting knocked back, I haven't got enough experience. And then from volunteering with the youth offending service and having to deal with different situations that sometimes you don't come across in everyday life, is what gave me the leverage over somebody else to actually land that job. So it you know, all time that is unpaid gave me that opportunity to go into paid, and it really does benefit. It benefited me loads of ways. My degree meant nothing.
Does it?
No, but no, to me it didn't, because I didn't have no experience to back that up.
Yeah, it was quite interesting when I got the first job in the first that I was talking to my line manager at my induction. She said your degree got you the interview, your experience got you the job.
That's exactly what you would say to me as well. So it really does. What you are on paper needs to be practical too.
Oh.
Well, I was just going to ask about, as well as having the experience, being able to articulate the experience, but I guess the more experience you have, the easier it is to articulate.
We've had a lot of volunteers, because we got like an email list, any jobs that come up, we mail it out to all the volunteers, so they can apply, so we give help then as well with applying for jobs in the interview. And when we had feedback from the one volunteer who didn't get the job, I just thought she was perfect for the job, she's like, I couldn't answer these questions, and she couldn't give examples. And I said, well, what about this time? What about that time? And because she couldn't articulate or put into...
And I'm shamelessly using this as a plug, because both of the groups in the room, the primary groups in the room, are going to undertake an award within the university called the Grad Edge Employability Award, which is asking part of the outcome of that is for them to learn how to articulate. You know, the experience is one thing, but to actually reflect on that experience and being able to sort of draw on the skills in, shall we say, a slightly artificial way first, but with a view to then coming out and meeting you guys when they actually put the applications in.
I would just apply for jobs with the interview experience, to be honest, just to get into that situation where you are being challenged and you're asking questions where it prepares you for the job you actually want then. I know it might be wasting employers' time, but just getting new experience. And if you get a job, that's a bonus then, isn't it? But I would encourage you to apply for jobs and just see what the feedback is really, so you know what to focus on and what to work towards.
Fortunately, our students, as part of their degree, do 3 years worth of placement experience, so they kind of do 2 things at once, so that by the time they graduate, that they are ready to apply and they have 3 years worth of experience. For the reasons that we've all talked about today, that's why we've designed the course in that way. So I suppose when I ask about volunteering, I'm asking about it from the perspective of, would a student have more of a chance of getting a job had they already put their foot in the door with a particular organisation, or would their experience that they have to date still be valued without having made that initial connection?
I'll talk about that in a bit.
Oh, right,
I
okay.
had that experience, so.
Okay. Lovely, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
If you were to apply to volunteer, like how would you go about doing that?
For our service?
Yeah, just like
we're in the boardroom now. It's basically a phone call. We can have a little chat about it, and if you're happy to go ahead, we send you information and an application pack. You just fill out like a normal job application.
Is that also available online?
No, we don't put it online just because we update it quite often, so we like to send a hard copy out so we make sure you get the right one really.
So they have to email you directly in order to get a copy?
We prefer phone calls than emails. I would suggest people get used to making phone calls. I've had people ringing up and saying, my son wants to be a volunteer. How old's your son? 25. Do you want to get your son to ring me then? Do you know what I mean? So I would encourage you to get used to the phone. The phone is nice to do people on the phone and have a chat. Emails, I'd rather speak to you on the phone. So yeah, phone call.
I think that's a good piece of advice for them to know that actually phoning is better than just dropping an email. That's really useful.
Always follow up. You want an email? You know, I would just say phone calls really nice. Okay, any more questions? We're in the boardroom if anybody wants to speak to us after.
Okay, thanks girls. Like Kelly said, we're in the boardroom after, so if you want to go and have a chat with them and sign up to volunteer, we're going to have a chat in the boardroom after. Okay, we've got, I'm mindful of the time's pressing on a bit, so we've got Nick now from Media Academy, so...
Is it Newport Jazz?
William like Gwent.
Okay. Hello everybody, I'm Nick Corrigan. Again, I haven't done a presentation, but that is because it could go anywhere, this talk. If you've got questions, please bombard me with questions and I will answer them as honestly as I can. One of the things that I've got to say is, what I'm going to say is very subjective. It's subjective to my experience of where I've come today and what the organisation does. Some of it resonates with what's been said, some of it doesn't. So every organisation is different. But what isn't different is if you have a passion for something in life, go for it. Whatever you want to do for a job, find out how you're going to do it. Whether that's volunteering, whether that's begging, whatever you want to do in life, please grab it because we only get one life. I am Director of Media Academy Cardiff. We are based in Cardiff. We started in Cardiff. We've actually now got services across South Wales Police Force area. We've got 4 main areas of work. Criminal justice, education, victim services and arts. So our criminal justice, to give you a sort of overview, for Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan, every child or young person aged 10 to 25 that gets arrested and they want to work with our organisation, we start them getting a criminal record. We divert them away from criminal justice services. To do that, we have a team based in the police station in Cardiff. For 18 to 25-year-olds arrested in Bridgend and Swansea, we also have those services in place. So that is all 18 to 25-year-olds that have done a certain category of offence, so obviously something horrendous like a sexual offence or murder we wouldn't deal with. We work closely, in fact we're commissioned by the two YOSs in the South West Police area to run their diversion schemes. And the reason why they commissioned it is because we could do it better. Not better by the skill base of staff, better because we can anchor in more money to run the services. Local authorities all across the UK are shrinking in their budgets, so more and more they're being forced to not do all the good stuff that they want to do, sort of all the additional services. They're being really pinned back to their statutory requirements. So what we're able to do for two YOSs is if they give us 100 grand, we can get 100 grand from other organisations to get a more enhanced service. Last year our organisation worked with 1,500 children and young people across South Wales. So that's criminal justice services. We run a school, so kids that are kicked out of schools in Cardiff, Vale, Monmouthshire, Newport, come and work with us if they want to. We run a school that works in media. So we use media, so we've got a recording studio, film studio, digital photography, traditional photography. That is the engagement hub to get all the other work done. And all the other work includes, we have drugs workers, we have counsellors, to try and change behaviours, to then try and get them into mainstream activities, whether that's back into school, whether that's into further education, or whether that's into a job. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, so why did you choose media as that kind of thing?
Okay, that's a very good question. Previously to what I was doing now, I was director for a company called Fairbridge, which now is Prince's Trust. And what Fairbridge did was engage young people through high-impact outdoor activities. So canoeing, rock climbing, all sort of really scary, you're going to abseil off a cliff, that's a life-changing moment, you can change your life kind of stuff. That was great for some people, very, very, very good for naughty boys. Naughty boys love going away camping, so we often do what's called the basic course, which wasn't basic, they'd go away for 5 days, really, hopefully, a life-changing experience. That wasn't so great for girls. Girls wanted to take hair straighteners, girls wanted to take makeup. Makeup didn't work well in freezing cold water. So although I think for some young people, that organisation changed their life forever, undoubtedly, and I'm very proud to have worked for it, it wasn't very good for everybody. So what I wanted to do is step back and think, okay, what would be good for everybody? I previously had a media degree, so we chose media to engage different cultural groups, different genders. We thought it would work well. What I didn't know at the time was how expensive media was to run. As software changes every year, computers get knackered, so it's a really expensive way of working with young people. But what we found is everybody likes music, quite a lot of people like social media, we do website design and building, so there was usually something in some media for everybody, and that's why we chose it. We also run arts activities, so we've got a philosophy that arts should be free for all, so all young people can access our arts for free, and we've got guitar tutors, we've got singing tutors, we've got show choirs, we've got drama, and all those activities are free. And underpinned by a lot of the work we do is we've got a victim service team that actually works with victims of all offences. So we're a restorative approaches organisation. For me, and restorative approaches is different for everybody. For me, restorative approaches is about a framework of how to have relationships. So it's about how you communicate, how you talk to each other. So restorative approaches, restorative working is in our team meetings, it's in our policies. When we work with young people in the criminal justice system, that's restorative justice for us, and that's around the victim being empowered to be asked and hopefully supported in repairing any harm that's been caused. So those, I think, are our 4 main activities at Media Academy Cardiff. Media Academy Cardiff is only 5 years old. It wasn't there. When I left Fairbridge, I thought there isn't anything that's fit for purpose for children in Cardiff. So the only thing I could do was to set it up. So I set it up. I invested £12,000 of my own money, that's all I had, so I invested it all, got a building. Within a month, we got a contract from Cardiff Youth Offending Team for £60,000. 5 years on, our turnover next year is going to be just under £1.5 million. and it was an idea that I had that, you know, I'm passionate about giving something to young people, and we need something that works for young people, and there was nothing that I saw in Cardiff that worked for young people. I had a passion to do that, I followed it, and it's a cliche and a strapline, and I don't want to be cliched, but every day is a joy, it's not work, because I absolutely adore every day going to work.
There's like an entrepreneurial message I'm hearing coming through here, and I'm wondering, you know, for people who want to pursue their dream,
Yeah.
you know, the third sector allows people to do that, and maybe that, you know, you're showing that. I just sort of always wanted to
That's my point too.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that bit.
That's
right. So that's what I said when I started this about following your dream. My dream was to create something that wasn't there to help young people. So the third sector, how that's sort of helped me do that, and how that's this year in January we will be employing 50 staff. There will be 50 staff on our team. When we started 5 years ago, there's 4. And why the third sector has nurtured that well for me is a reason why I think everybody should consider the third sector as a career option. And that is the diversity of it, the skill base that you need, whether that's if you're interested in marketing, if you're interested in case managing health, if you're interested in fundraising, if you're interested in policy. There are so many opportunities to hone your skills for you to take out what you need to create the career that you want. It is the best learning ground that I can tell you, because you've got to work creatively. You've got to deliver services on a very tight budget against very tight criteria of delivery. Funders will say they want these milestones. You've got to create services often for the most vulnerable families with set milestones when you're meeting families that have all got different needs every day. And a lot of that doesn't fit into milestones, so you've got to be creative. So all of the skills that the third sector promotes and needs, you can then take and become, get the job of your dreams and be more employable. In my experience. For me, the point of volunteering is that you get the experience to go with your degree. I'm an employer, I'm employing 50 people. If a CV or application form comes on my desk and it's got a degree on it, I know that some of the core requirements I need as an employer are there, i.e. you can hit deadlines because you had essays to get in or assignments to get in, so deadlines are hit. If you didn't hit your deadlines, you would have failed, you would have been kicked off. So I know on some level you can hit deadlines. I know that you're able to work within teamwork. I know that you're able to you've got a certain level of academic ability because you've got a degree. And I also know that you can use Office, you can use IT, because you know where you're going to get a degree. All those are really important skills for me to employ. But I also need to know that people have got experience. So if somebody wants to go and be a surf instructor in Bute, I need to know that they've got experience of what happens if a shark or stingray comes. I need to know what happens if somebody hurts their leg or they need a bruised knee, they need a plaster. I also need that experience to go with the knowledge that they're going to hit certain criteria on their skill base. Nowadays, I am getting on my desk applicants that have got both. So we've just advertised 7.5 jobs for Bridgend and Swansea that are currently out. So far we've had 240 applications in for that amount of jobs. So that is a type of shark-infested waters you're in. You have got to make sure that when you're going for these jobs, you stand out. And one of the best ways that I can tell you that I look for is that you can evidence that you know what the job is. You can say, I want to work for Chelsea FC. I've never worked for Chelsea FC, but actually I did some hot dog selling in Tottenham, so I know actually how a stadium looks and some of the health and safety requirements. You need to evidence somehow that you're employable and you're going to be an asset to the organisation, because there are hundreds of people doing that and getting experience to be able to put that on the table. That is what you're up against, and that's what actually you need to do. Placements is a very good opportunity to do that, and some of the questions that you might be asked about your experience and where you work with families or where you work with health or where you work with food, whatever you want to do, is a very good way. But in some ways that is very restricted because you've had to do that as part of your college. I've got the luxury of being able to look at people and say, okay, gosh, they've also, as well as doing college, as well as working in the bar, on Saturdays they also helped in a cancer home, and they have now got knowledge of caring. That is what you need to evidence when you go for interviews. Because if you're not able to evidence that for a good job and a good job in your career, you're wasting your time, and you don't want to waste 3 years that you put into this degree. You need to be able to evidence. There's an additional need that you need to evidence now moving forward, because the jobs market is really, really, really competitive, and that would be my advice to you. Why volunteering, and whatever format or getting experience, even if it's a week-long work placement, is really important to put on your CV. And really, that's what I was going to say. I'd like to ask you if you're interested at all in the work we do, www.mediaacademycardiff.org, and if you ever want to email me or want to come for a coffee talk around, I'm Nick, and all the staff are what their first names are, Nick at mediaacademycardiff.org. If there's no questions,
I've got one.
Okay.
You do, as an employer, you said about having knowledge, the field that you want to go in, with work experience. Some courses have embedded work experience embedded into the course. Would that be enough, or would you want to see something extra on top of that work experience?
Wouldn't say work experience, is that placements?
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be better to have something more than a placement, because the placement is compulsory.
Yeah.
So and I tell you, we have, I think in our organisation, we've got something like 15 student placements. I think we've got 2 volunteers, but 15 student placements. The student placements often do more than they like it so much. I mean, it's vocational, a lot of our work, but they like it so much they do more. And actually, that they're able to evidence actually to go above and beyond their 200 placement hours, and that's important for employers to see, because you can see the passion, you can see the sort of conviction. So there is definitely an added benefit to sort of look wider than placement in my experience.
So, for example, for our students, they deliver workshops every week throughout the year, just about.
As part of their course?
As part of their course.
Yeah.
So every week they go out to a particular setting, whether it's educational or in a community setting or in an arts and health setting, and they deliver a workshop in a range of different settings. And some of them go and find those settings themselves in their third years as well. But in addition to that, they're encouraged to, obviously throughout the day, to help in and around the placement with other activities that are taking place. Obviously that's their decision, and it's their decision as to what extent they do that. But as much as possible we try to encourage them to do that, so that is a good thing to do then.
Gosh, absolutely. Again, we go back to the experience, you get more experience if you do different things.
But even things like a bit of admin work.
Absolutely, it's a skill on the CV. I don't know if anybody of you have interviewed staff, but when you get an application form on your desk, you have a scoring matrix. If you hit the criteria, so actually experience of office, you get a tick. And the top 6 with the most ticks get shortlisted. So you've got to make sure your ticks count. So if they're asking for whatever field, if they want to know that you've worked in a pharmacy, so I'm just trying to be different, then if you don't get that tick, somebody else is going to get that tick. So if you're going to put in 3 hours on an application form, which you really should be putting 3 hours on to make sure that your points are hitting the scoring criteria. Anything on a person specification, the more you hit, if you hit every point on the person specification and you have got the experiences needed as essential, you will definitely get an interview. I can promise you that, because there will be people that aren't hitting every criteria. It's how you hit every criteria. Again, we get back to experience in the placement, but why than the placement. For us, we've about 70% of our work placements, 65 to 70%, who came to us as students, and students of criminology, students of social care, students of youth work, we have actually employed. They still go through the same process as everybody else. So it's an open recruitment, and they get a job. Where they've got a better situation where they're better placed is actually they know the job, they're able to talk about the job, they know the organisation, they're able to talk about the organisation, and they have direct experience of what they're going for. So they have off their own backs, they're not given any special treatment, they've just been able to know what the organisation is and answer the questions because they do it. So, and that's 70% of the placements that we've had through.
I think as well, there's a point underlying all of this, Rebecca, in terms of what said about students who are undertaking placements as part of their course, which is great. And I hear what you're saying, is actually most of them probably are doing additional stuff. So actually I go back to that word articulate again and being able to sort of say, you know, not just kind of bundle it all together. As I did a placement, I worked X, Y, and Z skills. It's actually saying, okay, well, this was the basic stuff. This was the, you know, it's actually unpicking the extra stuff and letting you know that it wasn't just a run-of-the-mill or, you know, hitting the mandatory hours or whatever, but actually what they did to develop themselves in that environment.
Yeah. Any other questions before I sit down? Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, mindful we are running over a bit. I don't know if you've got to get away to a lecture or something, but very briefly, we've got Tom from Interlink.
Thank you. I'm going to talk briefly. I can take a hint. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about the role I do and how volunteering helped me, I suppose. The word that's come through here is passion, right? So the voluntary sector is a chance for you to do something that you really care about. It's not about doing something to make money. It's not the place to do that. You can. Maybe we're different community then. But no, it's about finding something that you really care about, and that's what's united what the guys have been talking about today. My job, I'm a volunteering advisor in Rhondda based in Pontypridd. In some ways, it's a great job because we have got in Rhondda 461 registered charities to choose from. Right, so think about that. You're going out in the morning, you have a choice of 461 things to do. It's quite mind-boggling, really, the width of the sector. I'm speaking to my colleague from Newport just now, and they've got about 300 organisations just in Newport. Never mind Caerphilly, Blaenau, Gwent, etc., etc. So that's the first point to make. You've heard about 3 absolutely amazing charities here. I'm sold on them all, but it's, you know, if that's not what you want to do, then there are 15 organisations in the boardroom over there. And I think last time I looked on the Volunteering Wales website, we had 6,000 opportunities to volunteer around Wales. Okay, so if we can't find you something you like out of 6,000 opportunities, we should be sacked immediately. Okay, so that's the first point to make is, you know, find the organisation that's really right for you as a person. Sometimes it happens that the organisation looks great on paper, but in practice, it's not right for you. That's happened to me. I found a charity in Cardiff. I thought this is me. When I went along to meet them, it just wasn't right. So then you've got another 5,999 to choose from. My experience of volunteering, sorry, what was your name again? Kelly. Like Kelly, I did a degree and then thought about my career. I did it the wrong way around. I did a Russian degree in Edinburgh. Why? I don't know. It wasn't seem like a good idea at the time, but on reflection. So I graduated, I saw a little advert on the wall saying come and volunteer for Oxfam. Oxfam GB has been mentioned at all. I didn't know they worked in Newport. That's great. They also work in 80 countries around the world. So I started volunteering with them as a campaigns advisor. It was getting people to sign petitions, talking to politicians about issues around poverty, worldwide, also in the UK. The first time I went in, my very first session, we did a little induction, and at the end they said, what do you think about that session? Did you enjoy it? And I thought, blimey, they care about what I think. They've got 22,000 volunteers, but they asked me what I think. So they had me at hello, I suppose is the phrase, isn't it? I love that organisation, and I volunteered with them for a year and a half actually, in the office. Then the office manager happened to get pregnant, which was great for me, as well as her, because there was a job going. And they said, well, do you want to apply for the job? You've been hanging around now for a year and a half, we're going to do something with you. So they invited me to apply for the job. I got the job, became the office manager. And from then I discovered that Oxfam had offices in Eastern Europe. Like ex-Soviet Union countries, they work in Eastern Europe and so on. So suddenly the Russian degree wasn't such a waste of time after all. And I ended up working for Oxfam in Albania, Kosovo, Kenya, Bosnia, and helped us set up the office in Moscow in the Russian program. So, as you can imagine, for someone from Aberdeen, that's life-changing. Okay, and that I was lucky. I found the organisation that was right for me, but I was quite persistent. To answer your question earlier, I wouldn't go away because I knew I wanted to work for them, and it took me a year. I actually applied for 10 jobs with Oxfam before I found the one that I wanted. But I was I'm stubborn like that. I don't change my mind. We had a chap on the panel yesterday who started volunteering with the Citizens Advice Bureau while he was at the university, and they offered him a job the day he handed his dissertation. He's obviously a bit better than me, a bit more of a high flyer. But the thing in the CAB, 75% of their employees were volunteers with the organisation. And charities are there to help people, they're not there to make money. Part of that is developing you as well. So my advice would be find an organisation that you really care about, that, as Nick said, you get up in the morning and you can't wait to get to work. There are 15 wonderful organisations right there in the boardroom who are begging, fighting over you. But if it's not any of them are right for you, then please speak to me, speak to my colleagues in Gavo who cover the Newport area, and we'll find you something hopefully that changes your life in a positive way. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.